Hey, what's up everybody? Today we're going to be looking at the top 7 ways that the Headrush Looperboard can be improved. My name's Ryan, and this is Tides on Earth. All right, for the record, these are in no particular order. I think each of these things could really help. And I want to start with custom naming of effects. So for example, when I'm going to click on effects and I go to click out and I'm in a rush to come in here and I've just played 4 or 5 songs in this set and I see, studio, dub, I might not remember what, dub 1 or dub 2 were in these effects racks depending on, how far into my set I am and if I can remember that or not. So to be able to name these custom, reverb overdrive or, lead 1 or lead 2 or something like that. One thing I've found so far is if I'm using, I've almost set up a studio effect on the first effect on every single one of my songs. I really like AC guitar far and medium. I just find they're like a nice live, really bring them to life sort of a sound with my acoustic. So I've almost set that up on every single one and it's worked out really well for me so far. So number 2 is drum loop sampling. What I would love to be able to do is when I'm creating a track to be able to go in to import factory. And right in this window right here, a number of people have been talking about this, that I should be able to just right there click on it and be able to get an audio sample of that song. I'm not getting that right now. I have to click down here, I have to click import, and then I click import, and then it gets brought into the song where I can sample it, and I either determine there that I like it or I don't. And if I don't like it, then I'm going to hold this down and you'll see that it disappears there. So one part of this is that I should be able to sample the audio right in the menu, because with all of these options here, I should be able to go in and go, oh, I want to hear what this sounds like. I like that one. And it should play. We should be able to hear that right now, and we can't. So this having to go into import, and then play it, and if I don't like it, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to delete it. It seems like unnecessary steps. The other piece of this is if I've got a song where the beats per minute don't align with that drum track, not sure that's coming in clearly right now, I apologize. I should be able to sample the audio, again going in here. I know that the numbers beside these align with the beats per minute that the track was optimized at. But if I go up and I've got a track at a weird BPM or not a standard, BPM, I should be able to sample that track, not only sample that track here, but sample it at the BPM of that track. So if it was 137.7 BPM, let me sample this track here. I think that we should be able to reach a point where we could automatically adjust the BPM of these drum samples so that we get a sense right away if it's going to sound good. Because what it sounds like, in this case here at 107 BPM, it might work at 107, but I want to hear it at 137. That's what the BPM of this track is. So, those are 2 pieces to the drum loop sampling that I would love to see improved. I think that's something that would really improve the functionality and the ease of use of this feature. You guys are bragging about having 300 drum loops or whatever it is on this board, and that's amazing. But if I have to go in and it's a couple of steps to bring it in, to sample it, I don't like it, I gotta delete it, I gotta go back into the menu. I know that you can, just as an aside, I know that you can sample them. If you load them up onto your computer, you can sample them through your computer. And that's fine, as a one-off situation. But in the sense that if I'm sitting here with my device and I'm trying to build a track, then I want to be able to do it in that moment. I want to be able to sample it right here. I don't have to go to my computer and try to find the track. Like, you know, it just seems like it's adding extra unnecessary steps. And I would probably say that in a lot of cases, this board right now has a number of those unnecessary steps. We've talked before about, you know, the secondary functionality, and I wasn't gonna jump to this right now, but maybe I will. It seems like we're rolling with this. So number 3 is extending the use of the secondary functions. And what I mean by that is, again, on my board here, if I just bring this back and I go here, and we know already, I'm a big fan of all of these features: length, speed, reverse fade, transpose. I love these features. But there's a couple things that I would love to see improved. And one of them being, so for example, if I go to fade, I can fade an individual track, or I can fade all the tracks at once. I can also up the fade percentage, which I believe is 100% in terms of the length of your loop. So I was a bit confused about this at first, but I believe what it is, you know, 50% of your loop length. So meaning half of the length of your loop will be the time it takes to fade that out. If I want a slower fade, it'll go to 100. Now it does max out at 100, and I would love to see this extended to, you know, even 200%. A slow fade is sometimes really, really nice to have. And to simplify it, maybe even beyond 100%, to give us, you know, if you click up again, you can go 125, 150, 175, and 200 as a simple way to just extend the loop length. One thing I would love too with this is if a track has, now I don't have anything up here, this is not actually the best example to go from. Let me get back into, so I'm back here, for example, and I'm imagining that I can't fade because they're not playing. So I'm gonna play these. You're not gonna hear them right now, but I'm just gonna press play. Oh, you'll hear it through my headphones right now. So anyway, if I go back here and I click to fade, now I can fade out, you know, either of these tracks, which is great, or I can fade all. One thing that would be amazing is to be able to fade in a track, to be able to go back and bring that track back in through the same fade that I faded out. So if I was gonna fade a track out, and again, what I do love about this is obviously these top 4 right across here align with these 4 right across here. It's a very, very, you know, works. But if that track is faded out, now it's, I can't do anything here. Hitting this button doesn't do anything for me. And if I'm in the fade feature already, it would be great to be able to click that first button there to fade that track back in. Let me fade that back in. That'd be an amazing addition. It was something that I kind of assumed you could do, and once I got into this and realized, it was something that I realized, okay, actually we can't do that. And carrying on with that exact same thing, you know, for example, peel, and again, if I come back here, obviously these 8 buttons right here align with these 8 buttons right here. So if I come in here and I go to peel, now these are each only 1 layer long, so this is not obviously the best example, but if I was to peel a layer off here, clicking peel, and I've peeled it off, I think there should be an option to unpeel. Let me, if I've peeled, you know, 4 or 5 layers off of a track, let me add those layers back in by the exact same feature. Let me click it again once it's out, and let me bring those back in. And unpeel and an unfade would be really, really great additions to the secondary functionality. And I can't imagine it's too difficult to bring those back in. Another thing would be in speed. Currently, if I click here and I go to speed, I've got half, I've got 2 times the speed. Be great to see like a 3/4, you know, or different fractions there. Even to be able to slow down to a particular speed. Now I know that a lot of people are making these videos right now or making these comments in the Facebook group saying, I've got all these ideas. I understand what Headrush is trying to do, trying to kind of keep things a bit simple. We're not trying to get, you know, over the top complicated. with all of this, because as I come in here and I say, oh, it'd be great to put in, there's a half and a 2 times the speed here. It'd be really great to have 0.75 and different fractions of speed. I realize you guys are trying to keep it relatively simple, but even in this menu right now, to be able to see only half, 2 times, 4 times, 8 times, there is room for a couple more options here that would be very, very musical, and that's the goal here. To go half speed, there's a place for that, or maybe 2 times the speed, but I don't have many songs where I'm thinking, man, I wish I could go 8 times faster than what the current tempo is. That would really, do something musically for me. So to be able to have something that was going to be, 3/4 speed, slow it down a little bit, just a bit more of a subtle change in that speed, it would make speed more useful for me. All right, next up is extending the loop length beyond 5 minutes. And I understand that through the functionality, I can go to this backing track, this backing track feature here. And I understand that Headrush was trying to give us a way to be beyond 5 minutes in loop length. The trouble I have with the backing track feature is it's not connected to the other loops when you go to like the loop select page. So, if I'm setting up this board to be running, a full set list, and I'm just gonna pan back for a second here, and I go here and I go here for loop select, and now I've got all my songs here, and by, again, through the foot scrolling here, I can tap and scroll through, a number of different songs, which is great. But backing tracks aren't included here, and for ease of use, that's a little bit annoying, because whether I'm using a backing track or a loop, I would love for all of my songs to be in the same place. To me, it seems very obvious that you'd keep all of your tracks together, so that when you're doing, a 3-hour night somewhere, it's one thing to brag about having 9 hours of space on this board, but it's another when you don't have access to them in the same place. The other thing with the backing track is if I come in here to the backing track, I don't believe there's a way to load a backing track file with your feet. I can press play or stop or rewind. These are features that are available to me once the track's loaded. But I've actually got to bend down, use the touch screen, come in here and scroll through, picking the song and going forward. So everything else seems to be really optimized for foot controlling, which is great, but I don't see a ton of use in the backing track feature currently, and I would love to see extending that loop length beyond 5 minutes. And I don't know if there's a way to use that backing track feature in another way, if there's another way to repurpose that. And speaking of purpose, one thing that I've found a bit challenging here too is that if you look right here, not right there, here, you've got these front row of pedals look like they say record, play, dub. They are, however, not record, play, dub. These are record and dub only. Play is actually here with your stop, undo. And it does stop and it does undo, but this is a play button. This is not, which seems, like a big miss or a big error on their part. And I'm fine with it. That's not a huge deal to me. It took me a while to figure it out. But I do notice that when I'm playing something here, there seems to be some lag in the play button. Now I figure that's probably because this button is only triggering after I've pushed down and on the up of the tap. Because if I hold this button down, it's going to, like it says right here, it's going to undo. And if I lift up quickly, if I just tap once, as you can see, I've just tapped it and now it's playing. You can maybe hear it through barely hear it through the headphones right now. So as you can see, it is a play button. And if I hold it down, it will undo, or if I just tap it, it will stop it. But the play does not happen on the down of the push, it happens on the up from the tap. So originally this was something that I found really frustrating. I will say that I'm getting used to it. I'm starting to understand when it happens, and like muscle memory is starting to click in, and I'm starting to realize, like, you know, I've got to be a little bit faster to the tap because it's the pull up of my foot that actually triggers the playing of that track. So again, just a small thing, but they're all things, and we were used to things a certain way on the Boss RC300, and now we're having to get used to them sort of all over again on this board. Again, nothing, for me, it's nothing that's, you know, over the top, makes it unusable, or, you know, something worth returning. I know a number of people have returned their boards, you know, for those people, I have nothing but respect for your decision there. This is a lot of money, and, you know, you were hoping that this board was going to suit you, and it didn't. It suits my needs, and the shortcomings of this board currently are things that I've decided that I can live with, especially as I hope to see some of these improvements in firmware updates. But yeah. Back to the set list and backing track mode just for a moment. One other thing I would love to see as an improvement is, as I mentioned, this backing track, you don't have access to the backing track files. But the other piece is, if I go in here to use the loop select feature, it would be really great, because when you're forming your order up here, and this is a great feature, if you didn't know, you can pull this down. You can hit these three dots right here. You can, you know, you can move that song up or down, so I can determine, you know, where these songs are going to be. So I can make a set list really, really nicely on here. And not that it's a problem, but one thing that'd be really great is to be able to have a quick way of going up or down a song, like scrolling up or down. So let's come out of there, and let's come out of here. So let's say I've just finished this song. I just finished the song, and now I've got to click here, and I've got to go to loop select, and I've got to go to, say, here to highlight the next song. And there we are. Now I've moved on to the next song, and then I've got to hit back again. So anytime I'm changing songs on this board, 1, 2, we'll go to the next one, 3, 4. Try that again, 4. 4 clicks just to get back to do the next song. What would be great, and to that point about taking away the backing track, because I don't totally see the purpose of it, because I can't put it into this list, this list right here. It doesn't live there. It lives in its own separate menu, and I want them to be all in the same place. So how about using this backing track button to be function and then next song, and then it takes you back. It would be 1, 2 taps, as opposed to, what did I say, 4 before? So if I go here, 1, 2, loop select, 3, wait for it, 4 taps. Make that just 2. And let me go real quick, loop select, bang, and back. And to that point, if I do go in here, and I gotta go loop select, and I go to pick the next song, if I've hit that, that should just take me back to the song. All it does is highlight that track. So I've clicked here, and now it's highlighting that track. If I click here, now it's highlighting that track. But I still have to exit out of here. I don't understand why there's an extra tap there. There's a lot of extra tapping that to me just doesn't seem necessary. If I've picked a song, that should just take me right back here without having to hit this back or exit button. Going loop select, again, 1 click should take you out of this menu right back to the song, instead of having to go here, and that takes you back. Just seems like there's a lot of like extra clicks when there doesn't need to be. So those were just 2 suggestions that I had, because on the Boss RC300, I had a separate pedal hooked up where 1 click on the pedal was a scroll up to the next song. and it was great. It was very thoughtless. I just knew that that was what was going to happen. It took me very quickly to the next song, and it was easy and thoughtless, and I loved it. So, you know, to be able to go in here, 1, 2, pick the song, 3, and back, 4, you know, seems excessive. And as we talk about loop select, again, I know that this is the layout with this grid right here to give you very clear visual space so that I can see here, you know, this second in from the left is white. And if you look here at these 4 squares right here, second one in from the left, these are, you know, these match up perfectly with these. But if the space between this grid was smaller, it would allow for the font in these little boxes to be bigger. And the screen's beautiful, it's nice and clear, it's nice and bright. I did use it in an outdoor gig, and I did find it to work out very well for me. I found it was visually very easy to see. I mean, I didn't have sun directly on me. It wasn't, you know, 12 noon, hot day, you know, crazy sun. But I think any board that you'd be looking at outside would be difficult to see in that situation. So I'd love to see these boxes be made larger and the font be made larger, because a lot of these songs, if you notice, Sleep on the Floor, Weighty, Alaska, Goshen, Call Me Al, I've made short forms because I've realized that I think it's around 7 letters keeps the font as large as possible. Once you get beyond 7, then the font starts to get smaller, and I find it a little bit difficult to see. I'm 6'3", you know, a long way down. So the next one is much more of a want than a need, but it is, right now, this audio interface works as a 2-in, I believe 2-out audio interface. And to me, I'm not sure why we don't have access to all 4 ins. If I was recording a duet with a partner and we were able to run both tracks in live together, or if I'm doing something off the floor, you know, sometimes you got your vocal mic, you plug in your guitar, maybe you've got like a Rode NT5 at your 12th fret, or a condenser just picking up the room. You know, there's always times where you think, oh, another microphone might add something. You know, you may not use it, but to have the option would be great. So to be able to have this be a 4-in audio interface as well would be a really, really great feature. So I would love to see that extra. I don't really think I need the 4 outs, to be honest, if I'm running in by USB, because I'm recording with my through my DAW. And in this case, it's Logic. You know, I don't really see the advantage of the outs for that. If I'm using it in a live situation, I'm probably not using the audio interface element of it. You know, as someone mentioned to me before, you could basically just hit record on all 4 tracks. And if you had 4 different instruments, or, you know, 2 instruments and 2 microphones, you could essentially record a whole gig on this device, and then go back and put it into your DAW after that too. You know, taking the recorded tracks, treating them like really, really long loops. But again, that's where that 5-minute loop length would probably be limiting, because you couldn't do that currently. So I feel like that's something that a number of people have vocalized. I feel like that's going to be a change to this board. And I'm keen to see Headrush, you know, make that change, because I do think that that's going to be a way to improve the board. The way the labels fall, you know, that there's certain things that are mislabeled. Well, it's already mislabeled. You know, this board right now says record, play, dub, and it's not. It's record and dub, and it says stop and undo, and it's play, stop, and undo. So the way they, you know, these devices were built, and they were still making some changes. So, you know, to utilize that backing track feature as a scroll up would be an amazing, amazing feature. Now on to the last part of this video. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, one of the cool things about the world we live in with YouTube and social media is I got some emails from people asking about additional features. These are things that don't so much, appeal to me specifically, but I do think it's important that I sort of voice the concerns of some of those people. One of the biggest things that I heard was, you guys are offering this free mode, and I haven't used it a ton yet, admittedly, but it allows for, you know, ambient swells and creating, you know, instrumental music through loop and through building the track. And one thing that a number of people have said is that this board currently doesn't have a feature that allows the music that you've recorded to fade out, sort of like, I guess, like a delay pedal would have like repeats. Whereas at a certain point, you know, say after 30 seconds or a minute and a half, you know, what you've played or what you've recorded at the beginning starts to trail off to allow space in the mix for, you know, new content. And it allows for a really like subtle fading of certain parts as you're building in other parts. And there's this almost like this like cyclical thing happening where as I'm recording the next thing, something's fading out, and it keeps it kind of moving. And I've not done this a lot myself, but you know, there's a number of people that are doing ambient looping that are looking for a feature like this. So it'd be really cool to see that. Anyway, this video has gone on way too long, and the next one will be a video, you know, highlighting some of the sounds. I thank you guys, as always, for watching these videos. Been kind of blown away, actually, by the feedback so far of people reaching out and appreciating what I'm doing here. So I hope you've valued this, and to Headrush, I hope you guys are listening. I know you are, and I'm really, really keen to see the firmware update. I know you guys are dropping one for your looper board and your gig board soon, so you've been probably busy with that. And I know that it takes a little while. You guys want to see what the feedback is from users before you go and make changes. And I think there's been tons of feedback so far. And once again, my name is Ryan. Thank you very much for watching. This is Tides on Earth.